Ohio. Albania, the state in the western part of the Balkan Peninsula. The population, according to Institute of Statistics of Albania for January 1, 2017, 2,876,591 persons, the territory minus 28748 km. Also the 139th in territory takes the 136th place in the world on population. The capital, Tirana. A state language, Albanian. Albania, the unitary state, the parliamentary republic. Ilir became the president of Albania since July 24, 2017, holds the prime minister's post since September 15, 2013. Edi Ram. According to Economist Intelligence Unit AN, the country in 2018 was classified under the Index of Democracy as the hybrid mode. In administrative territorial division, it is subdivided into 12 areas. It is located in the southeast of Europe on the coast of the Adriatic and Ionic Seas. The Strait of Otranto separates Albania from Italy. In the northeast borders on Serbia, partially recognized Republic of Kosovo, in the northwest on Montenegro, in the east on Northern Macedonia, in the southeast on Greece. Albania, along with partially recognized Republic of Kosovo and Bosnia and Herzegovina, is one of the countries of Europe with the prevailing Muslim population. Albania, the member of NATO since 2009. The official candidate for the accession to the EU since 2014. The toponym Albania comes from the medieval Latin name of the country. Probably, it came from the name of the Illyrian tribe of an Albana. Albanet. Noted by Ptolemaeus, the geographer and the astronomer from Alexandria, who made the card in 150 of our era, on which the city of Albanopolis, located to the northeast from the city of Ders, was shown round. From it there was probably a name of the medieval settlement under the name Albanon or Arbanon, though there is no confidence that it was at the place of former Albanopolis. In the history written in the 11th century, the Byzantine historian Mikhail Italiot for the first time mentions about participating in a revolt minds Constantinople in 1043, and about as citizens of the Duke de Rakia. In the Middle Ages, Albanians called the country of Arbary Arberi, Arbeni, Arbeni, and Arboresham, Arboresh, or Arbnesham, Arbinesh. Nowadays Albanians call the country Shqipëria or Shqipëria. In the 17th century, the toponym of Shqipëria and ethnic with Katoikani Shqiptar was gradually replaced according to Arberia and Arboresh. Shqipëria and Shqiptar are widely interpreted as the earth of eagles and children of eagles. Also Shqipëria, according to one of versions, comes from the Albanian word shqip, to state a thought. The Slaviste M. Salichus claimed that the source of this root, the word Shie, which means Slavs, and is a consequence of Slavic colonization of the Balkans in the 6th-7th centuries. Albania is located on the Balkan Peninsula in southern Europe and occupies the space in 28748 km. From the northwest she is washed by waters of the Adriatic Sea, and from the southwest, waters of the Ionian Sea. Both are a part of the Mediterranean Sea. In the western part the low area, the rest, about 70%, mountainous and woody areas is located. The territory of the country lies between the 42nd and 39th parallels north and also between the 21st and 19th meridian east. An extreme northern point of Albania is the village of Vermish, 42 n. Extreme southern, the city of Konespal, 39 n. An extreme western point of the country, the desert island of Sazani, 19 l. Extreme east, the village of Vernik, 21 l. The highest top of Albania, Mount Korab, 2764 m. Extent from the east on the west is only 148 km, from the north on the south minus 340 km. Each part of Albania is occupied with mountains and hills which pass diversely on all length and width of the territory of the country. The largest ridges are the North Albanian Alps in the north, Mount Korab in the east, Mount Pindus in the southeast, Akrokoronski Mountains in the southwest and Mount Skanderbega in the center. One of the most important features of geography of Albania is existence of numerous and large lakes. Located in the northwest of the country, on border with Montenegro, the Lake Shkodër, the largest in southern Europe. Its third part and 57 km of the coast belongs to Albania. In the southeast on the height there is Lake Ohrid, divided with northern Macedonia, one of the oldest constantly existing lakes in the world. It has depth of 289 m and unique flora and fauna because of what is under protection of UNESCO. Further big and small Lake Prespa, which is one of the highest lakes in the Balkan stretch for the south. The rivers of Albania originate mainly in the east of the country and flow into the Adriatic Sea in the west. The longest river of Albania measured from the mouth to a source probably is Drin, beginning in the place of merge of two upper courses, Black and White Drin, and proceeding in the north of the state. Vjosa, one of the last untouched large river systems in Europe. Mati, Shumbini and Samani treat other important rivers of Albania. Thanks to the geographic location in the center of the Mediterranean Sea and to a big variety of climatic, geological and hydrological conditions, Albania possesses exclusively rich and contrast biodiversity. It is protected due to existence in the country of 14 national parks, 1 marine park, 4 Moaski grounds, 1 biospheric reserve and 786 protected natural territories of various categories. Because of the remoteness, mountains and the hills of Albania are covered with the woods, trees and herbs necessary for dwelling of the most different animals, including 2 most significant endangered species of the country, a lynx and a brown bear, and also a wild cat, a grey wolf, a red fox, an ordinary jackal, an Egyptian vulture and a golden eagle, a national animal of the country. Estuaria, swamps and the lakes of Albania serve as the habitat for a pink flamingo, a small cormorant, and is extremely rare and, probably, the most sign bird of the country, the Dalmatian pelican. For fauna of the country, the Mediterranean seal monk, a large-headed turtle and a green turtle using at coastal waters and coast for a conclusion of the posterity are of particular importance. In geography of plants, the territory of Albania is a part of the Galacticeski kingdom, being in his Circumbarelian Mediterranean regions. She is conditionally subdivided into 4 terrestrial ecoregions of the Palearctic ecozone: the Illyrian deciduous woods, the Balkan mixed woods, the Pindus mixed woods, and the Dinarski mixed woods. It is possible to find about 3,500 different types of the plants relating mainly to the Mediterranean and Eurasian flora in Albania. In the country there were rich traditions of the traditional medicine using herbs. In preparation of medicative herbs and medicines, not less than 300 plants growing locally are used. A fir, an oak, a beech and a pine, main types of trees of the woods of Albania. In the territory of Albania there are oil fields, natural gas, coal, chrome, copper, nickel. Average temperatures of January, 9 C, July, plus 24, 25 C. Rainfall minus 820 May year. Climate of a coastal, western part of the country, Mediterranean, passing to the eastern continental. Average temperature of July on the coast, from plus 28 to plus 32 C, January, from plus 8 to plus 10 C. High summer temperatures are moved to the coast easily because of constantly blowing Mediterranean breeze. The tourist season proceeds from May to September, but on air comfortably to be also in April and October. In a year about 300 sunny days. In the early spring and there are rains late fall. In the mountains of Albania climate much colder, in the winter temperature can fall to 20 C. Apollonia Illyriskaya, important ancient Greek colony on the Illyrian coast of the Adriatic Sea and one of the most western points of Ignatievea road connecting Rome and Constantinople. The first traces of human presence in Albania relating to eras of the Middle and Late Paleolithic were found in the village of Gjer, near Saranda, and on the Mount Dati, near Tirana. Silicon and jasper objects and also fossilized bones of animals belong to finds in a cave near Gjer. On the Mount Dati, the bone and stone tools similar to tools of Aurignacsky culture were found. Paleolithic finds of Albania have strong likeness with the artifacts of the same era found in Cervinština in Montenegro and northwest Greece. In the central and southern Albania, several artifacts of a Bronze Age from burials in barrows which show close connection of these territories with southwest Macedonia and Lycus were revealed. Archaeologists came to a conclusion that these regions were populated from the middle of the 3 millennium BB with the Indo-European speaking Proto-Greek. A part of this population migrated towards Mycenae about 1600 BB that led to development of the Mycenaean civilization. In antiquity, the territory of modern Albania was mainly inhabited by a set of Illyrian tribes. Illyrian tribes never collectively considered themselves Illyriates, and it is improbable that they used any one general name for all the tribes. This name, apparently, belonged only to one Illyrian tribe which became the first with some ancient Greeks in a Bronze Age, therefore it was moved to all tribes with similar language and customs contacted. The territory known as Illyria, approximately stretched along east coast of the Adriatic Sea to the mouth of the Vjosa River in the south. The first known description of Illyrian groups contains in Peripal of Pontus of Ivkinsky, the ancient Greek composition of the middle of the 4th century BB. The south was inhabited by the Greek tribe of Honiots, as which capital served Phoenicia. By 7th century BB, on the coast of present Albania, ancient Greek city-states founded numerous colonies, such as Apollonia, Epidamnos and Amantia. The west of modern Albania was inhabited by the Thracian tribe of Brabes. The Illyrian tribe operated mostly modern Albania. The Ardiansky kingdom reached the largest sizes at Agrona, Plavrat son. Agron extended the power into other neighboring tribes. After his death in 230 BB, his wife Tefta inherited the Ardiansky kingdom. She managed to broaden his territory further on the south, which reached the Ionian Sea. In 229 BB, Rome declared to the Illyrian kingdom war because of plunder of the ships. War ended with defeat of Illyriates 2 years later. In 181 BB, Tefta was replaced by Genti. In 168 BB, between him and Rome, the Third Illyrian War, which next year led to the Roman gaining the region, began. After that, Romans divided area into 3 administrative units. Finally, Illyriates were subdued in the 9th year AD by Tiberi, the Roman emperor from 14 to 37 AD, who founded the Illyria area with the imperial legate at the head. In the 1st century AD, the Christianity gradually gets into Illyria. After the Roman Empire in the 4th century was divided into East and Western, the territory of Albania remained within the Eastern Roman Empire. In the next centuries, the Balkan Peninsula suffered from invasions of barbarians. Illyriates are last time mentioned in the text of the 7th century. At the end of 12th, the beginning of the 13th century, Serbians and Venetians began to occupy the Albanian lands. Ethnogenesis of Albanians isn't clear, however the first indisputable mention of Albanians is dated for 1079 or 1080. In historical records of Michaela Taliot contain a mention of participation in a revolt against Constantinople. By then Albanians were completely Christianizirvana. The relief in Spoladel of Albanese representing a siege of Chikara, as a result of which the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II occupied the Albanian city, which then was under the power of Venice. The first semi-independent Albanian state was created in 1190 when the Archemperor Gon founded the Principality of Arborea with the capital in Krai, which was in structure of the Byzantine Empire. To Progon, his sons Jan Progoni and Dimitri Progoni inherited. At the last it reached peak of the development. After the death of Dimitri, the last representative of a dynasty of Runs, the principality passed under Grigor Kimona's power, and later the Golem. In the 13th century the principality stopped the existence. In several years after Arborea's disintegration, Charles I Antiusky concluded the agreement with the Albanian governors, having promised to protect their ancient freedoms. In 1272 he founded the kingdom Albania and attached to him the areas won from the Apersky kingdom. The kingdom applied for all territory of the central Albania, from the Rakia along the coast of the Adriatic Sea to Butrint. Expansion of this Catholic kingdom promoted also distribution of Catholicism in this region of the Balkan Peninsula. Internal race for power in the Byzantine Empire in the 14th century allowed the Serbian king Stefan Dusan to create the short-lived empire which for a short time occupied all Albania, except for theirs. In 1367 various Albanian governors based Artsky At the same time, several Albanian principalities, the most known of which were Topia, Kastrioti, Mazaki, Balsha and Ariniti, were created. In the first half of the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire intruded on the most part of Albania. The Lezski League, under the direction of Skanderbeg, which became the national hero, was in reply created. Having served the Ottoman Empire nearly 20 years, Skanderbeg rose against her that stopped advance of Ottomans to Europe for 25 years. Ottoman invasion on the territory of Albania marked a new era in her history and made huge changes to political and cultural life of this region. In 1385, Ottomans for the first time reached the Albanian coast. By 1415 they created the garrisons in the south of Albania, and 1431 occupied the most part of her territory. With the advent of Ottomans, Islam became the second religion in Albania as a result of Massachusetts' emigration of Christian Albanians to other Christian European countries. Arboresh in Italy. At the same time, Muslim Albanians gradually moved to Turkey and other parts of the Ottoman Empire, such as Algeria, Egypt and Iraq. In 1443, under leadership of Skanderbeg, the big and long revolt continuing till 1479 began. He repeatedly won against large Ottoman armies led by Murad II and Mehmed II. At first I united the Albanian princes, and then I established the centralized power over the most part of the territories which aren't won by Ottomans, being a recognized governor of Albania. Skanderbeg constantly, but unsuccessfully, tried to create the European coalition against the Ottoman Empire. He broke all their attempts to return Albania under the power which Ottomans considered the base for invasion into Italy and Western Europe. Is an equal fight from the most powerful. The power of the time won respect of Europe and also received some financial and military aid from Naples, Venice, Sicily and the Pope. When Ottomans at last managed to return themselves control over Albania, they divided it into 4 sandak. The authorities contributed to the development of trade in the Albanian lands, having placed a significant amount of the Jewish refugees expelled from Spain in the region. The port of Liri played importance in trade between the Ottoman Empire and Western Europe. Being Muslims, some Albanians reached important political and military positions in the Ottoman Empire and made the contribution to wider Islamic world. So the post of the Grand Vizier was held by more than 20 natives of Albania, including Kiopriulia Mehmed Pasha and Fazila Ahmed Pasha. Other Albanian Muhammad Ali Pasha, being a deputy in Egypt, I undertook a number of successful reforms on modernization there. I suppressed a revolt of Wahhabites in Arabia, itself rose against the Ottoman Empire and based the dynasty governing until 1953 in Egypt. Process of Islamization of the population went gradually. Only in the 17th century most of Albanians became Muslims. This process was gradual, since arrival of Ottomans. Holders of Timar weren't surely turned into Islam and sometimes rose against the Ottoman Empire. Catholic Albanians mainly addressed in Islam in the 17th century, while Orthodox Albanians followed their example next century. Originally, Islamization process actively went in the city centers, such as Elbasan and Shkoda, then it extended also to rural areas. Motives of the address, according to historians, were various depending on this or the context. Friendly relationship between Russia and Albania has ancient history.
About 250 years ago, the destiny reduced Albania and Russia in joint fight of the minding uniform enemy, the Ottoman Empire.
Nearly 5 centuries the Albanian people suffered from the Turkish yoke. Albania looked for support to war to be exempted from him, and sometimes found her in the person of the Russian governors.
The first direct contacts between Albanians and Russians happened in the middle of the 18th century. Russia turned into the serious opponent of the Ottoman Empire by this time. Military operations between these states became some kind of signal for the anti-Turkish performances in the Balkans, including in Albania.
Thousands of Albanians joined the Russian army for participation in war with Turks. Main articles: Provisional Government of Albania, Principality Albania, Albanian Republic and Albanian Kingdom. In November 1908, after overthrow of the Sultan Abdulhamid II, in Bitola was carried out the First National Congress. In 1910 in the north of Albania the revolt broke out. Next year the new revolt set as the purpose to receive autonomy for Albania. In the spring of 1912 there was a public revolt, insurgents captured Skopje, Dibra, Elbasan, Prometi. On August 23 a truce was called. Certain autonomy was provided to the Albanian people, but administratively autonomy wasn't fixed. In October 1912 the First Balkan War began.
On November 28 in the city of Vlorë the Congress of Representatives of various segments of the population proclaimed Albania the independent state and created the first provisional government. In 1912-1913 Austria-Hungary, Great Britain, Germany, Italy, Russia and France recognized autonomy in the beginning, and then independence of Albania of Turkey. The first parliament of Albania is created in 1920, during fight for independence of the country and against her section on the Parisian world between Greece, Italy and Yugoslavia. In 1928 the parliament is dismissed, Albania is proclaimed the kingdom.
The resistance movement was headed by pro-communistic forces. In November 1941 the uniform structure of KPI, which had to head liberating fight, was created. In September 1942 the Congress of Progressive Forces which opposed occupation in Big Ps took place. General National Liberation Council which had to direct liberation movement was created. It became governing body of the National Liberation Front.
In July 1943 the General Council of the National Liberation Front made the decision on the organization of the General Staff of National Liberation Army.
In May 1944 on the First Anti-Fascist National Liberation Congress the Anti-Fascist National Liberation Committee, to which functions of provisional government were transferred, was created. In 1944 universal suffrage is entered. In 1945 there took place parliamentary elections in which 97.7% of votes were received by the Democratic Front headed by communists. Other political forces didn't take part in elections. Gradually the power in the hands was concentrated by Enver Hoxha, who was cruelly dealing shortly with the political rivals. The exclusive board of the Albanian Labour Party was approved. Up till 1948 the Communist Party of Albania.
Tens of thousands of Albanians underwent repressions of political police of Segrimi.
Till 1956 Albania maintained relations with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics as opposed to Yugoslavia. However, after the 20th Congress of the CSU, the course towards political isolation was accepted.
Relations were maintained only with the People's Republic of China and Romania.
In 1968, protesting against the Soviet intervention to Czechoslovakia, Albania withdrew from the Warsaw Pact. The country lived in the mode of constant readiness for war. Each family was obliged to build to itself an air raid shelter. Religions carrying a beard were forbidden. In 1967, Albania was proclaimed the atheistic state. In 1978, cooperation with the People's Republic of China was sharply curtailed.
After Enver Hoxha's death in 1985, the new leader of APT and Enver Ramazalija began policy of gradual economic transformations and expansion of relationship with other countries. In 1990-1992 there was a falling of communist regime in Albania.
The country passed to a multi-party system and market economy.
The power in Albania was alternately replaced. The Socialist Party of Albania
represents the southern regions, which generally are industrially developed, the leader Edi Ram.
And the Democratic Party of Albania
represents generally the country north, the leader Sali Berisha. In the country, an attempt to condemn the former leader, Ramazalija, was made. However, as a result of street riots, he was unbound.
In 1997 in the country there were disorders caused by bankruptcy of financial pyramids of Albania, which led to use of army and change of the power subsequently.
Since April 1, 2009, Albania, the member of NATO. Albania is the parliamentary republic. The formal head of state is the president, Kridaret, elected by parliament for a period of 5 years. The same person more than 2 terms can hold the presidency. Since July 24, 2017, the president is Ilir Meta. The executive body, Keshili Administrative, consisting of the chief minister, prime minister, and ministers, includes the following ministries: Public Works, Transport and Telecommunications, Science and Education, Environment, Administration of Forest and Water Resources, Agriculture, Food and Consumer Protection, Social and Labor Affairs and Equal Opportunities, Tourism, Culture, Youth and Sport, Finance, Economies, Trade and Power, Justices, Foreign Affairs, Defenses, Innovations and Information and Communication Technologies, Healthcare, European Integration, Internal Affairs. The supreme legislative body of Albania is the Parliament, Unicameral People's Assembly. Qevendi I Shqipërisë, consisting of 140 dix. 100 deputies are elected on a majority system in single-candidate districts, in 2 rounds. 40 according to party lists with a 4% barrier. A term of office of deputies -4 years.
The party and political structure of Albania is highly polarized.
The left-centrist Socialist Party, SPA, and center-right Democratic Party, DDA, dominate.
SPA comes from the former Hoxhaski APT, DDA, from the grassroots anti-communist movement of 1990-1992.
Socialists and Democrats regularly alternate in power. They are joined by small parties of the similar directions.
To SPA, Social Democratic Party of Albania (DSPO).
To DDA, Republican Party of Albania (RP). The Socialist Movement for Integration (SD), which separated from SPA, but blocked with DDA, acts as some kind of third force. The Communist Party of Albania (CA), radical in ideological rhetoric, but ambiguous in a concrete political role, keeps aloof in a political range. The leading figures of SPA: Fotos Nano, Edi Ram. DDA, Sali Berisha, Lyle Zimbasha, Sti Ilermita, Dispo, Skender Janushi, Engelbete, RP Sabri Godo, Fatmir Medi, Pae Husni Milosha, Kamal Chikoleri. Body of the Constitutional Supervision, the Constitutional Court. Jakarta Kushtatus. The highest judicial authority, the Supreme Court. Jakarta Elart. Body of Public Prosecutors Supervision, the Prosecutor General's Office. Procuroria e Pergicum. Body for selection of candidates for positions of judges, the Supreme Council of Justice. Teshili Elart Idretisais. Body for the organization of elections, Komisioni Kendra Izjedijiv. The territory of Albania is divided into 12 areas. Kark, the plural Kark, which were divided into 36 districts earlier. Ri, the plural Rit, Ret, and 373 municipalities. Each district had the council consisting of several municipalities. In 2015, administrative territorial reform, as a result of which administrative division change was undertaken. The number of areas remained the same, but now they are subdivided into 61 municipalities, which part communes are.
Population minus 2,831,741.
A census of 2011. While the population, on a census of 2001, was people, the population decreased by 7.7% within 10 years. The main reason for decrease in population: large-scale migration and decrease in birth rate. Resident population:
1,421,810 men minus 50.2%, 1,409,931 women minus 49.8%.
Annual gain minus 0.3%. High level of emigration from the country. Urban population minus 53.7%. Data for 2011. Country people minus 46.3%. For the first time in the history of a census, 2011. Of the population in the country of Albanians lives in the cities more than in rural areas. Ethnic structure: Albanians minus 95%, Greeks minus 3%, others. Romanians, Roma, Serbians, Macedonians minus 2%. In April 1990, the Jewish diaspora in the country stopped the existence. The last 11 Jews left for Israel.
At the beginning of the 20th century, the ratio between Christians and Muslims in Albania was almost equal: minus 47% of Catholics and Orthodox Christians, 53% of Muslims.
In 2010, according to the Encyclopedia of Religions, J. Shi. Maltona, Muslims made 63% of the population of Albania, Christians -31%, non-believers and atheists -5%. Islam is presented by Sunnites and Bektasha. Christians are distributed on two approximately equal groups: Catholics, 490,000, and Orthodox Christians, 475,000. Most of Protestants, 20,000, are parishioners of various Pentecostal churches.
According to data of State Department of the USA, the share of the persons taking active part in religious life and services in temples makes from 25 to 40%.
Day of the Republic, one of the most significant national holidays in the country, which is annually celebrated on January 11, since 1946. The Independence Day of Albania is celebrated on November 28. As a rule, solemn parties in honor of this day are given also by diplomatic missions in various countries. Day of a Beatification of Mother Teresa is celebrated on October 19 as a national holiday. Architecture and Fine Arts. Secular Albanian painting arose only at the end of the 19th century. Our formation, first of all, contacts a name of Kola Idrameno, 1860-1939. Blossoming of the Albanian painting falls on the interwar period when there were several art schools at once. Shakadarskaya, led by Zef Kolombi, was the largest of them. In the period of Enver Hoxha's government in the fine arts of Albania, the principle of socialist realism dominated. It were own beliefs of the dictator imposed and spread by him in the country. Albanians have no idols and gods, but there are ideals. It is a name in Marx, Engels, Lenin and Stalin's business. In the same time I was present, and the cult of personality in Enver Hoxha was widely encouraged.
In Albania, the set of cloths of the famous painters which imprinted an image of the leader of the country in the cloths remained.
Flesh from flesh of the people, I am thin. Zef Shoshi, 1976. The party is created, I am thin. Shaban Hissa, 1974. With thoughts of fight for bright future, I am thin. Pages. Shala, 1976. On January 11, 1946, I am thin. -5. Pilitsa. 5. Helika, this day the Constituent Assembly elected during the country's first democratic elections, expressing will of the people, unanimously proclaimed Albania the People's Republic and chose the new government led by Comrade Enver Hoxha. Declaration of the Republic, I am thin. Fatmir Haxi, 1974. Conversation with the locals. Hugate, summer of 1943. Declaration of the Republic, I am thin. Fatmir Haxi, 1974. The most indicative and the example of art of the Albanian socialist realism of the time public now is the colorful panel Schwipterit, 1981.
Located on a facade of the building of Musée Historique Combater at Skanderbeg Square, executed in strict traditions of socialist realism.
On a panel, the generalized character of history of fight of the Albanian people for the independence is presented. Here it is possible to see all stages of this fight. Soldiers of Scandinavia, creation of national language and writing, fighters of the Red Guerrilla Brigades.
A central part of a panel, a figure of the defender of the homeland with national flag of Albania in hands, girls in a national dress.
An image of Mother Albania, who threw up a rifle and the intelligent worker toiler. During 40 with small years of government of Enver Hoxha, from the moment of the end of World War II to his death in April 1985, in Albania construction of concrete bunkers was conducted. Over 700,000 small bunkers, on 1 on 4 residents of the country were constructed. They literally covered the whole country. Density of bunkers -24 pieces on square kilometer. Small bunkers were located groups on 3 and more pieces in places of the most probable approach of the opponent. Now they can be met everywhere, including in the cities, directly in the yards of houses. There were not enough small bunkers intended for infantry. The set large, intended for artillery calculation, was constructed. Such bunkers were located generally along the line of the sea and along borders. Near those still it is possible to meet such bunkers on the beach converted in shower, cafe, locker rooms or just warehouses. On some hotels and the room were constructed inside it is used as a warehouse. Except pillboxes, strengthenings for manpower and the equipment were based. Such constructions were under construction, generally in mountains and hills. As envisioned by Hoxha, from aviation raids of the hypothetical opponent, heavy armored vehicles and infantry had to be hidden there. Many of them aren't finished and remained at a stage of construction of a concrete entrance. Now Albanians trade on them. A warehouse, the pigsty, the household room, the place for installation of billiards. Naturally, Enver Hoxha couldn't but take care of himself. The main bunker, having length several honeycombs of meters in his hometown of Gjirokastra, was constructed. For all party management shelters in the capital of Tirana, on the Mount At were made. Besides strengthenings on the earth, were constructed 2 on water. They were based with 2 entrances and exits connected by a tunnel to water and with utility rooms. They intended for the shelter, repair and equipment of submarines. In one of such objects the Soviet investigation was based on Adriatic Sea. A similar underground base of submarines is in the Crimea in Balaklava. The underground airfield capable to contain up to 50 planes was also built. In 2012, at the level of the government of the country, the decision on elimination of these artifacts of the past was made. From this point, dismantling of bunkers began. First of all, they are removed from beaches, the cities, roads and those places where they can get on eyes to the tourist.
Before establishment of communist regime in Albania, the level of illiteracy of the population was estimated approximately at 85%.
During the interwar period, the country felt an acute shortage of educational institutions and the prepared shots. However, with coming to power in 1944 of the communistic government of Enver Hoxha, the state began to make huge efforts on eradication of illiteracy.
Strict rules were introduced.
Everyone aged from 12 up to 40 years, not able to read or write, had to attend special classes for finding of these skills.
Since then, a literacy level in the country considerably went down.
Today, literacy level in Albania is estimated at 98.6%. 99.2% among men and 98.3% among women. In the 1990s, the level of providing educational services underwent significant changes. The Albanians connected, first of all, with Massachusetts resettlement from the village to the city. The oldest university of Albania, the University of Tirana, was formed in 1957. Sources of the Albanian theatre go back to the ancient culture of the Illyrian tribes living in the 2nd millennium BB on the Balkan Peninsula. Since the beginning of the 19th century, amateur theatrical companies existed in the cities of Shkodër, Korçë, Tirana, Elbasan, Gjirokastra. Modern art of theatre arose in the years of anti-fascist fight in guerrilla groups. Cinema of Albania, as well as many other small countries, is of interest almost only for experts on cinema. The specifics of local film production don't assume wide national film distribution. That certainly affects the number of the released movies.
Only after finding of independence of the Ottoman Empire in 1912, information on this new art form began to filter into Albania.
In 1945 in Albania, the first cinema institute, which was transformed a bit later to the first Albanian film studio, on which in 1953 the epic drama, Great Soldier of Albania Skanderbeg, was shot open. In cooperation with the Soviet Mosfilm. This movie got an award for direction at a film festival in Cannes in 1954. Albania, the moderately developed agrarian industrial state.
One of the poorest countries of Europe, which for many years was in the international isolation that interfered with creation of steady trade and economic relations with the developed countries of Western Europe.
Now it is expressed in a lack of foreign investments into national economy. DDD volume in 2013, $12.9 billion. $10. 52,000 per capita on PPS, the 131st place in the world. In Europe shares the penultimate place with Bosnia-Herzegovina, advancing only Moldova. It is lower than the level of poverty, minus 25% of the population. Since January 1, 2021, the monthly minimum wage makes 3,000 leks gross and 26640 leks net. That makes, according to $297.01 gross and $263.75 net. An hourly is equal 172.4 leks. $1.71. Salary less than leks a month isn't assessed with income tax. The Kca index. A ratio between minimum and the average salary in the country. In Albania, as of 2019. Average minus leks, minimum minus leks. Makes about 43%. Advantages. The country successfully passed to stable market economy. Low inflation. 1.9%. Rather higher rates of economic growth. Above an average across Europe. And a low public debt. Below an average across Europe. Also in the country there is rather cheap and well educated, in comparison with the countries of Europe, a labor. In the conditions of sharp falling of unemployment rate and strengthening of deficiency of labor, growth of the salary, as of 2019, doesn't restrain economic slowdown. Weaknesses. Poor source of raw materials. Strong corruption. Slowly progressing market reforms. Small volume of investment into infrastructure and research and development. The biggest problem, as well as in other rather poor countries of Europe, to Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, etc. The deficiency of able-bodied labor increasing every year and growth of number of pensioners, in connection with low birth rate and high emigration of the population in others, richer, the countries of the world. Structure of economy in 2009. DDD share. Agriculture minus 20.6%. The industry minus 18.8%. Services industry minus 60.6%. In agriculture 58% working or engaged in the industry minus 15%, in services industry minus 27%. Unemployment rate minus 12%. In 2009. In agriculture are made wheat, corn, potatoes, vegetables, fruit, sugar beet, grapes, meat, dairy products. In the industry, food processing, textiles and clothes. Wood processing, oil production and metal ores, production of cement, hydropower. Export in 2017 minus $2.39 billion. Footwear, chromite ore, ferroalloys, crude oil, agricultural products. Mainly fruit, vegetables and tobacco. Main buyers. Italy minus 48%. $1.15 billion. China minus 7.4%. $177 million. Spain minus 5.3%. $127 million. France minus 4.7%. $113 million. And Germany minus 4.7%. $111 million. Import in 2017, $4.21 billion. Cause, etc. Equipment, oil products, medicines, cattle and products of cattle breeding, textile and consumer goods. Main suppliers. Italy minus 30%. $1.28 billion. Turkey minus 9.9%. $416 million. Greece minus 7%. $391 million. Germany minus 8%. $336 million. And China minus 7.4%. $311 million. Geographical distribution of foreign trade of Albania for 2014. EU countries minus 66.0%. $5079 million. China minus 6.1%. $465 million. Turkey minus 6.1%. $465 million. The countries of America minus 3.8%. $294 million. The countries of Africa minus 1.5%. $117 million. Russia minus 1.5%. $115 million.
On the territory of the country, shared taxis, buses and trains ply.
The share taxis, called here van, the most popular type of transport, is them serve 9 and the 12 local minibuses of a white red coloring going to a way when all places are taken. In each city there are one or several stations of vans. Municipal buses go according to the schedule. They also ply, generally up to 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. Between the cities of Albania it is possible to move by trains. Railway communication connects Tirana, Durrës, Shkodër, Pogradec to Vlieë and Elbasan. The most brisk movement between Tirana and Durrës, to 6 trains a day. On other directions 1-2 trains a day are provided. Also far. Read comments. Write comments. Your opinion will be interesting. All of good mood and good luck.